Yo, Rocco B, Scotty G, highly explicit NFL podcast. We're back, episode 16. I'm Rocco B. How you doing? But here's the thing. We got Scotty G taking his little siesta, taking his little vacay down in Florida. He needs his little R&R. I get it. You know, he's on vacation. But we didn't want to sit out the whole week. I brought in the goods. I brought in my boy, Dr. Tomas. Dr. Tomas, how you doing, baby?
Here I am. I'm doing great. I would say we got the next best thing, but we actually had the next better thing.
God, I hope Scotty D doesn't hear that. I'll tell you what, we talked about the draft in episode 15, the first round. Look at what we did. Our fucking mock drafts paid off. We did pretty damn well, especially against prognosticators, and we basically just went through and said, hey, we like this, we don't like this. We expected this. We didn't expect that. I just can't wait to hear what you got to say, Dr. Tomas, because I know you did the mock draft with us. Like we talked about on episode 14 in the pre-draft, we hit on some shit, didn't we?
Sure did. Now look, I scored the lowest out of the other two here, but I'm pretty consistent because I got 6 last year. I got 6 this year. And if you look, there's a couple picks where I had the right position, just the wrong guy.
You know, put yourself against DJ. Put yourself against Sims. Put yourself against some of these guys who Kuiper, who scored 6. I mean, you're right up there. So, you know, you're not Mike Florio, who got fucking 3 right. It's pathetic.
Florio deserves no credit for anything. He is a complete drama queen.
It's unbelievable. He got the top 2 picks who everybody knew was going to be the top 2. 3 picks. It's fucking pathetic.
Yeah, I got to give Scotty credit for nailing that Trey Lance pick. That was crazy. As soon as both of us were expecting Mac Jones there, when they went with Trey Lance, I couldn't help but give him a round of applause for that. That really threw the whole draft together because the drama there was wondering where Mac was going to fall and how far he was going to fall.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't have Mac Jones going San Fran, honestly, it was New England. But the problem is, everybody knows my 2 opinions on that were I thought they were going to get Jimmy G, number 1. Number 2, I just didn't see Belichick taking quarterback in the first round. Should we have seen it coming? Probably. But when you think Mac Jones is going to the 49ers, then he's not going to fucking be there for the Patriots. So, but yeah, Scotty had it from day one, and got to give it to him.
Hey, one thing I want to point out is in the pre-draft episode, one of the things I said was that the Dolphins were going to target a pass catcher at number 6, and that they had narrowed it down to Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, and if they were off the board, they were going to get one of the 2 Bama receivers. Turns out that was correct. They got Jalen Waddle, who I actually had them in my mock, him going to Miami in their 2nd pick.
In your mock, you know, we all had a Penei going number 6. But you had Waddle going to them at 18. What Scotty says, I completely believe as far as DeVonta Smith was the one who talked shit on Tua. So there was no way they're taking him there. But I just thought that even though I like Waddle, I thought Waddle was a huge fucking stretch at 6. I really thought that Penei should have been the pick at 6. And then, honestly, I think they had a nice pick, you know, maybe with a Bateman or even a Terrace Marshall or even Elijah Moore at 18. I just don't like Waddle at 6. But yeah. we'll get into that. I hated Miami's draft. So
no, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I saw the excitement in the Lions war room when they drafted our boy, Penei Sewell.
Oh, yeah.
You can't help but be excited for him. Definitely a guy that's going to break kneecaps, which is what they want. That's probably at the top of their of their scouting report. Will he break kneecaps?
Well,
yes.
I told Scotty in the last episode. I asked him if he remembered the show The Biggest Loser, and he laughed and he said yes. And I said, I think Penei Sewell is the biggest loser in the NFL draft. He's got to go to the Detroit Lions when he easily could have been with the Miami Dolphins. So, but yeah, they got a great pick. I think the real shocker, J.C. Horn came off the board at 8.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to touch on. If you remember my mock draft, I had them going with Surtain there.
Yep.
So I thought they would go corner. You guys were not on the same page with me there, I don't believe. But I had them going corner. Did not expect it to be J.C. Horn. So that's one of the several picks that I had the right position, just the wrong guy.
Yes, and we will get into I want to talk about the number 4 and 5 pick in a second, but I'll tell you what, when we're sitting there and Carolina's on a board, and we both, Scotty and I, even though Scotty had Fields going to Carolina, there was a real great shot they were trading out. And when they stayed and then they said the pick was in, I said, okay, this is either going to be right up Scotty's alley with Justin Fields, or they're going to help out Darnold with a receiver, or even Rashawn Slater at that point. When I see fucking J.C. Horn come off the board, I felt two things. I felt completely fucking shocked that the fact that they took Horn over Surtain, if they were going to take corner, number one. Number two, I was completely fucking elated the fact that now Horn's off the board to not screw with my Cowboys. I just loved it. I loved the fact he was gone because I did not want J.C. Horn.
I had the opposite reaction. It worried me for both of our teams where we need a corner. And I was like, oh no, a corner's already off the board here. My thoughts at that time were that Dallas now was going to get Surtain at 10, and there was going to be nothing there for Philly to draft.
Absolutely. I was absolutely, completely convinced that Denver was not going to take corner or Denver was going to trade out for Fields. And I'm like, okay, now Denver's sitting there. And Denver
I thought Denver was going to trade there. I can't believe that they didn't make that Bears trade.
Exactly.
That would have been great for Denver. Honestly, I don't think anyone really had Surtain going to Denver. Do you remember seeing that on anyone's mock?
Nobody had Surtain going to Denver. But when Denver's sitting there and the pick is in, they don't trade out. I'm like, there's no fucking way that Surtain's taken. I'm thinking they're taking maybe Micah Parsons.
I would agree with that.
So all of a sudden, boom, you see Surtain hit the screen, and now my fucking mind is blown. I'm like, these two corners just went back to back, right in front of Dallas, 3 picks in front of Philly. We just lost out on our corners. But now I'm thinking Dallas has either got to take Micah Parsons, take Rashawn Slater, or they got to trade back. And lo and behold, bada boom, they trade back.
Nobody discussed that. Nobody hit on that.
Couldn't believe that it was the Eagles, and we're the fucking two that were talking about it.
You thought it. I remember you said something along the lines of, "You love that I'm taking a risk and saying that the Eagles might trade with the Cowboys, but you didn't see it happening because nobody did. Nobody was talking about that, but we did." This very podcast.
Yes, and I'm telling you, the love that the Eagles had for DeVonta Smith was so obvious to Dallas that Dallas was like, oh, okay, you want to give us another third-round pick and you're going to tell us you're taking offense? Or who the fuck knows? They might have even said we're taking DeVonta Smith. They traded. I mean, I never would have seen in my mind that fucking trade was going to happen. Cowboys and Eagles, give me a break. If they really wanted to fuck over Philly, like I told you in episode 14, they should just take whoever there, whether it was Horn or Surtain or even
now
Parsons.
Surtain's on the board. I don't think that trade happens. I think the Broncos were the key there. As soon as Surtain was off the board, I think the Cowboys were like, yeah, sure, let's get another third round pick here. And the Eagles were like, no problem. This is one of our top guys. We've been identifying this guy the whole time. And I just want to mention this. The poor Giants fans. I mean, Philly tanks week 17, eliminates the Giants from the playoffs. They get the 11th pick, one ahead of Philly, and then Philly jumps one spot ahead of them for their guy.
And that's what I was going to say. Philly jumps the Giants because of DeVonta Smith. They have to trade with Dallas, which is insane. But they trade with Dallas just to jump in front of the Giants because they knew the Giants would have taken Smith. And it's obvious when the fucking Giants take Tony at 20 that they would have taken Smith at 11. So
reach.
Huge reach. So here's the thing, even though I like the kid. Here's the thing. The Eagles take Smith. Now the Giants trade with the Bears, and the Bears take Fields like I called from day one. Now Dallas is sitting there, and I'm like, we still have Slater. We still have Parsons. We still have Vera Tucker. Like, we are fucking set. And at this point, I'm sold on, and I'm not just saying this, Scotty will vouch for it. I said they got to take Micah Parsons here. This is the fucking perfect spot. You would have taken him at 10 anyway with Horn and Surtain off the board. You get an extra third-round pick, and you still get Parsons. Bada boom, bada bing, they took
I was surprised to see you guys go with Parsons, but I agreed with it. It was a great pick, in my opinion. I think I texted you that at that moment. Great pick.
Yeah, the more that I've thought about it, and then the more I researched it, it made complete sense. Van Der Esch, they don't pick up the fifth-year option. Van Der Esch is Sean Lee 2.0, who gets hurt all the fucking time. Wonderful when he's on the field, but he's not on the field a lot. They're worried about him, so they're going to let him play out his 4th year before they give him the 5th-year option or try to re-sign him. So I understand that. And everybody forgets, even though they signed up Jaelan Smith for fucking 18 years and, $100 million, whatever the fuck they gave him, his cap hit is not huge to get rid of him. You can get off him if you want. And the way that he played last year, if Dan Quinn wasn't coming in this year, I would say get rid of him now. But I want to see what he does in a Dan Quinn defense. But if he can't play like he used to at Notre Dame in the first couple years he was with the boys, get off of him, and we got Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox in the 4th round.
Another great pick.
Oh, my
was
God.
surprising. Hey, real quick, Rocco, you were just talking about a Dan Quinn defense. I don't know if you saw this, the news as of this morning, that Micah Parsons revealed that he's been informed that the Cowboys are switching to a 3-4 base defense, which is going to be a new thing there. And Dan Quinn did not run that base in Atlanta. So how do you see Micah Parsons fitting into that, as well as your other linebackers?
Now that makes even more sense, to be honest. And I wonder that's basically the big reason why they drafted the kid Quentin Bohanna out of Kentucky, the nose tackle, because he's a basically 3-4 schnoz. I didn't see it coming because Dan Quinn always ran a 4-3. But I'll tell you what, we have the backers, and we have DeMarcus Lawrence, to me, is a perfect end in a 3-4 scheme. I think he's better at a 3-4 end than he would be at a 4-3 end. So we already have that locked up. That's beautiful.
Yeah, you got the kid from the Jets that came from a 3-4 scheme, too.
Yeah, Basham can play 3-4 outside linebacker or even end, which is fine. That fucking really excites me about Gregory, because Gregory stood up at Nebraska. So, I like that. I really do. I really like that.
Now, keep in mind, in nickel and dime packages, you're still going to have 4 down linemen. So it's not too much of a change. It's just in your base package. So
yeah, no, I like it because now you get Van Der Esch, Neal, Smith, and Parsons on the field. That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, so that's great. That makes a lot of sense because one guy had to be the odd man out if it's 4-3. So who was it? Was it Smith? Was it Parsons? Was it Van Der Esch? Was it Neal? Who's it going to be? Now they're all on the fucking field at the same time. That's awesome. So then you're talking about, I'm thinking maybe Slater goes to Dallas at 12. Well, the LA Chargers, who to me are set up now to be the surprise of the league this year, just make sure that they took Rashawn Slater to cover Herbert's backside. The only missing link that they had, now they just filled it with a kid who fucking put Chase Young to bed when they played Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we all had Slater going to the Giants, so I was surprised to see him slip down that far. He's actually a guy, I agree with you, that I thought the Cowboys were going to look at there.
Yeah, it only made sense because they play Chase Young twice a year.
Chargers have to be focused on keeping Herbert clean, keeping him healthy, and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Love that pick.
Yeah. They're going to be a shocker this year. Watch them.
I know you guys already covered this. You covered the Jets, but I just want to talk about pick 14 with the Jets trading up because I received an interesting text while you guys were watching the draft. Our friend Scotty went on record saying that he was leaving the draft viewing party if the Jets in that situation drafted Kwity Paye. Luckily, they did not. They drafted Elijah Vera Tucker. A great pick, but one thing I want to point out is that nobody was really talking about the Jets moving from 23. We discussed briefly them moving back, but no one was really discussing them moving that pick, and they did it. They went and got their guy.
Well, I really believe that the more and more people that can listen to us and hear what we're talking about, we're going to be the alternative. We are not going to just keep regurgitating the same shit that you're hearing all over the networks, all over everywhere else. We come up with some shit you're not going to hear anywhere else. And during this draft, not only did the picks hit where we said they would, but a lot of fucking trades and shit happened like the way that we said they would that nobody else was talking about. So I feel good about that. I really do.
Same here. One thing I have to put hand up, I was wrong about this, is, and to be fair, I had historical context on my side here. But Kwity Paye fell into the 20s. Scotty was actually right about that. He did fall. But the thing was, edge rushers fell as a whole. They all fell. I was surprised to see that Jaelan Phillips was the first defensive end off the board. Now, I think we all agree that he is the most talented. But with that injury history, I was surprised to see him go ahead of the other guys at number 18.
Well, Dr. Tomas, the last episode when I talked with the first round with Scotty, we did mention a couple different times about Kwity Paye and where he went, and how Dr. Tomas was in top 10. But be that as it may, yes, you're right. Pass rusher did suffer. Jaelan Phillips to me is a toss-up with a couple guys as most talented. I would not have picked him number one pass rusher wise because of his injury history. But who had the best pro day? Who had the best pro day as an edge rusher?
Hey, unbelievable.
Fucking Jaelan Phillips.
His explosive numbers were incredible. I will say that I think Miami had the luxury of making a risky pick like that because they had 2 first-round picks. Would you agree with that?
I would. I just don't like the fact that some teams do the home team discount type draft pick. Like, he played for the U, so Miami takes him because they've seen him. He's played in the same stadium, all that shit. If we go back through drafts, you've noticed that teams do that. They take the fucking hometown kid. I don't like it. And at the same time, again, I really think that his pro day held more stock than the fact that he retired from the fucking game. And he came back to another school. He didn't even come back to UCLA. He came back to another school with a bunch of studs on the same defensive line. Hate the pick for Miami. Even though it was their second pick, what do you want to be, the Raiders, and just have fucking 4 first-round picks every year and blow 3 of them? I mean, it's just, it's a shame. And believe me, we'll get to the Raiders soon. But I'm telling you, I don't like the pick of Phillips there. And it's amazing that edge rusher does not come off the board until 18.
I was shocked. As the draft was progressing, I was shocked that pass rushers were dropping. I do want to mention, since Scotty was so hard on me about Kwity Paye, I want to discuss some of the other guys that he had going above Kwity. Jason Owe. How about him falling all the way to 31 with the Ravens?
Yes.
Almost out of the first round. None of us saw that coming. I know that he didn't have a lot of production at Penn State, but I thought in that 40 time and some of those explosive numbers that he was putting up that he would be a guy that would get some looks. But instead, he went to Baltimore at 31. And then one more guy. We all had Aziz going.
Yes.
Our boy Aziz Ojulari going all the way. He dropping into the second round. Great pick, in my opinion, by the Giants. But I hear there's some injury question marks there, the reason that he dropped.
Yeah, fantastic talent. And if you really flipped their picks around, the Giants, you say they took Aziz at number 1 and they took Tony in the second round, their draft completely, in my mind, flips my opinion.
Yep.
But they took Tony in the first round and Aziz in the second round. There's no way that you would have imagined that Aziz is there in the second round, but Tony would have been. But to be honest about the pass rushers, though, Dr. Tomas, there's 6 of them, right? 6 of them from 18 to 32. I can't believe that Aziz was not one of the guys that's in there. I can't believe Joe Tryon slipped into the first round. I cannot fucking believe Peyton Turner slipped into the first round. And, you got guys like Owusu-Koramoah that dropped out. And
that was my biggest surprise of the day. I've been saving that one. One more thing about pass rushers before we move on to that topic is I hit on Greg Rousseau going to the Bills. That was one that you did not see that likely, but I had identified him there. I thought a lanky pass rusher would be good in that defense, especially because they needed someone to get after the quarterback.
Yes, no, and the only reason why I did not have pass rusher going to Buffalo is I had this feeling that ETN was their guy. I did not realize that the Jaguars would come up with and make it a realization of the fantasy that me and Scotty were talking about as far as being Clemson South. But that's what they did.
Pick. I hated it. I thought it was terrible to draft ETN there. I'm sorry. I know you guys like ETN, but
no. I just think that as far as the fit goes, they got James Robinson and Carlos Hyde. Why would you waste a first-round pick on another running back? I'm with you.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm with you.
Exactly.
I know they want to make Trevor comfortable, but at the same time, no, that wasn't the move there. So I figured, okay, well, ETN's going to Buffalo, so they don't need pass rusher. Rousseau, to me, I'm actually shocked that he actually came back into the first round. He was one of those guys it was Rousseau and Kwity Paye were the top 2 pass rushers coming out in the beginning of the whole process. And then all of a sudden, Phillips had that amazing pro day. Rousseau didn't have a fantastic pro day. Rousseau sat out the 2020 season, and boom, now all of a sudden Phillips was the favorite. And it panned out in this fucking draft. Phillips went 1, Penei went 2, and then Rousseau went behind those guys. So it's very strange that this was the year that they put more stock in the pro days, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I recall you saying that Rousseau was more of a stand-up guy, too.
Yeah, because
so that's why
lanky.
You didn't envision seeing him. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't, to me, he's not a 4-3 end. Like, he should have been in a 3-4 type team where he can stand up. I thought Rousseau maybe would have been taken by Baltimore, but they took Oweh instead. And then did you see also Oweh is going to go by his original first name? It's not.
Yeah, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it because I'll end up coming off like Scotty.
It's Odafe.
But I did see that.
Odafe Oweh. No more Jason. It's Odafe Oweh. Double O. So, but Baltimore is a great fit for him because he can stand up.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Now, real quick, before we get into the next topic, Dr. Tomas, I wanted to just go back real quick. I don't want to leave the Falcons and the Bengals fans out to dry. Can we just admit that the Atlanta Falcons are going to be the most fun offensive team to watch this year?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great pick for them. They got the unicorn.
Unbelievable. I mean, they got to put him, with Hayden Hurst, who to me is a little underrated. First round pick overdrafted, but at the same time, I think he's an underrated tight end. Arthur Smith's going to use 2 tight ends. Then you got Julio and you got Calvin Ridley, and then you got a kid, Russell Gage, who broke out last year. On top of Mike Davis as running back. So to me, Atlanta with a Matt Ryan who was an MVP a couple years ago, I think they're going to be fantastic to watch.
Hey, did you see the Vegas over-under odds for Kyle Pitts' rookie year receiving yards?
I did not see it.
It's something like 870, which I believe Jeremy Shockey is the only rookie tight end ever to exceed those numbers. The baseline expectation by Vegas right now is for him to have a historic season for a tight end as a rookie.
Yes, generally rookie tight ends do not pan out. I would say if we look at Jonnu Smith's numbers the last 2 years, I think Pitts is a more athletic, more dynamic tight end than Jonnu Smith with Arthur Smith as the coach. He'll blow those numbers out of the water, whatever Jonnu Smith had. So to me, yes, is it very tough to come into the NFL as a rookie tight end and put up a bunch of fucking numbers? Absolutely. Kyle Pitts is not your average tight end. He is going to light the league up.
He's going to be dangerous there.
Yeah.
That offense got a lot scarier.
Talk about light the league up. This is another team that I really believe is going to surprise a lot of people. The Cincinnati Bengals.
Ooh, the Bungles.
The Bungles, no more. They're going to be the Burrow's Bengals. Big swinging dick Joe Burrow is throwing his weight around a little bit in that franchise, and it's a good thing. To me, that was the whole thing. Do they take a Penei Sewell or do they take Jamar Chase?
It's going to be tough to throw to him when Burrow's on his back or in the operating room or wherever he ends up after this season. I would have went with our boy Penei Sewell there. Jamar Chase is a great talent, though. I'm not going to bash it too hard. But the poor guy, I mean, he has to be upright to complete passes to Chase, doesn't he?
But if you can throw to a guy in the dark and you know on your second or third step when you plant your back foot, you know where the guy's going to be without even breaking out of the route yet, that's helping just as much as a nice pass blocker. In my opinion, I really believe that if they had the opportunity to draft Pitts, which he was not there, or if they had the opportunity to have Jamar Chase instead of an offensive lineman, I would have done it in a heartbeat because that will help out a quarterback in the new age NFL just as much as a pass blocker would because he knows where this guy's going to be. They got a rapport together. They were fucking unbelievable in the best season that a college football team has ever had offensively 2 years ago. I love the pick. Loved it.
Yeah. Vegas loves it too, by the way, because I just mentioned Kyle Pitts over-under for receiving yards. They have Chase at the over-under set at over 1,000 yards. Do you agree with that? Do you think he goes over 1,000 in his rookie year?
He could. I believe that he only has one guy in that offense that could take away a bunch of targets, and that would be T. Higgins. Now, you got Tyler Boyd still, which will be a beautiful slot receiver for them. They still don't have a tight end. I don't like Drew Sample. I don't think he's a guy that's going to be, stealing targets away. Jamar Chase will be one of the top 3 candidates for Rookie of the Year. You know what Justin Jefferson did with Minnesota? We'll expect about the same from Jamar Chase.
Well, I got a couple other guys that I would put up there in that category too, but I have a question for you, Rocco.
Alrighty.
Now, do we think that if Chase was off the board there, would it have been offensive line, or do you think they would have looked at a guy like Kyle Pitts?
No, they would have taken Pitts for sure. Say if Chase went 4 somehow to whoever, and Pitts is still there, I think Pitts is there. I believe if they were so high on Penei Sewell, they take Penei Sewell number 5 regardless. I just don't think they were high on him. They would have taken Penei Sewell if he was there, if they really loved him. You don't take a receiver or you don't take a tight end over a generational offensive tackle if you love the guy. So I really believe that they weren't high on Sewell, and I really believe they made the right pick with Chase. And they would have really had a fucking tough pick if Chase and Pitts were there. But ultimately, I still think they would have went Chase because of
the Joe Burrow connection.
The Joe Burrow connection, absolutely. So now here's the thing. We mentioned him earlier. How the fuck does Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah not make the first round?
I was completely flabbergasted by that. I felt bad when I was doing my mock draft and I had him falling 23 to the Jets. I was like, oh, this is way too low. This will never happen. And then next thing I know, he's available midway through the second round. I couldn't believe it.
Scotty and I had him going 19. I mean, to me, he's such a stud. He could be the future Darius Leonard, 6'4", leaner type guy, but fucking fast, who can either play safety or linebacker or maybe even in that hybrid spot. I don't understand why that would drop you to the second round. I mean, if you can do both, I mean, what the hell? People were talking about, maybe, he doesn't have a position. Bullshit. You create a position for this guy, right? Justin Simmons was drafted 8th. So you're talking about Owusu-Koramoah, who was nasty at Notre Dame, drops to Cleveland in the second round? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, when the Eagles were on the board in the second round, I was like, this is a dream scenario. This is going to be Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who I told you before the draft, I would have been fine if they took him at 12. If other guys were off the board, I would have completely understood it. I did hear that he has some sort of like heart issue or heart defect that was identified in the pre-draft process. I don't know how serious it is, but I did see the Browns say that they were comfortable with it, they were aware of it, and that it shouldn't be a limiting thing for him. But I wonder how many teams had him off their board because of that.
Yeah, I think it's horseshit, and I really think, like you said earlier, I think it's the thing why Azeez Ojulari fucking went to the second round. You can't do the due diligence this year. You can't have the guy into your own clubhouse where their own ability to have doctors look at him. They're not going to have that. Everything's on Zoom. Everything's fucking away from the facility, So I think that hurt a lot of guys.
You just reminded me of something because that did not stop our friend Howie Roseman in his second round pick when he drafted Landon Dickerson. I like him as a prospect, but I don't know if you're aware of his injury history.
Had, like eight torn ACLs, I think, something like that.
Well, I'll stop you there. He played in 5 college seasons, and he had 4 season-ending surgeries. So two of them, I know. Two of them were ACLs, and then he had 2 season-ending ankle surgeries as well. The guy is a monster, but they did not let that defect stop them from drafting him high in the second round. But other teams felt like Ojulari and Owusu-Koramoah, their injuries were going to drop them off of boards. Keep in mind that this is the same Howie Roseman that passed on drafting DK Metcalf because of injury concerns, but now suddenly he's okay with it. He loves his offensive lineman. I'll give him the guy that. He'll overlook any injury history for an offensive lineman, but there's some other guys, if you play another position and you have injury histories, will go the other way because he's not drafting you.
We're not taking him. It's perfect that you said that, Dr. Tomas, because later in this episode, I'm going to go over why he will be a bust for the Philadelphia Eagles for one reason, really, and one reason only. He was a University of Alabama offensive lineman. And I cannot
Please, Rocco,
wait.
you back on your helmet scouting bullshit.
Well, you just wait. You just wait until the data that I got for you, pal. And hopefully Mike Mayock and John Gruden are listening as well. But go ahead.
One of the things I want to mention about that pick and him being there, now you say he could be a bust. Agree, he could be a bust, but I think it's for the reason of like a guy that just retired for your team, like a Sean Lee. I think Sean Lee, when he was on the field, was one of the best linebackers in the game.
Yes.
In fact, I'll say if Sean Lee had a healthy career, we're talking about maybe a Hall of Fame consideration now.
Absolutely Hall of Famer.
We're
Absolutely.
debating whether he's a Hall of Famer at this very point, had he been a guy that stayed healthy.
Yeah, but in my definition of what I call a bust, it does not mean that you are a garbage talent. It doesn't mean that you are solely overdrafted. It's the fact of injuries. It's the fact of were you with the wrong team and then you kept going on the wrong team, so that means there must be something wrong with you. So there's got to be a bunch of levels to this bust word, but what I'm saying is it just seems like there's something in the water. There seems like there's something there that maybe these guys are all five just too good together, but once you put them on an island by themselves, they don't work. And I got the fucking data for you later on. Landon Dickerson is already fucking behind the 8 ball. He's had an injury every fucking season. And then at the same time, he's got that big white A on his maroon helmet. Not good.
Can't wait to hear that. I don't think Bama has the A on their helmet. Just want to correct that.
That's right. That's right. They got the numbers. They got the numbers. But here's the thing. You tell me. DeVonta Smith, what do you think?
Rocco, I was ecstatic. I think everyone knows when I was laying out my mock draft, I had the Eagles passing on DeVonta Smith. But if you recall, that was me picking with my head, not my heart, because I was ready for Howie Roseman to disappoint me once again. Howie Roseman, for his first round performance, deserves a giant round of applause, because if you recall when there we go. Let's give it to him.
I'll give it to him. I have to fucking give it to him.
I'll give it to him because it goes beyond just this pick. When he traded back from number 6, he was betting that Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase would be off the board.
And I guess he wasn't in love with a guy like Penei Sewell either.
For him to take the risk and trade down to 12 behind 2 of his biggest division rivals, he was opening himself up to so much scrutiny. And it comes down to the fact that he reportedly favored DeVonta Smith above everyone. So he got the guy that he wanted and was able to acquire a first-round pick next year in a draft class that is going to be able to be fully evaluated. A great job by Howie getting his guy. And that was the first thing that was going through my mind when Pitts and Chase came off the board 4 and 5.
Yeah.
We spoke about those guys, but in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, Howie was right. Howie called that. It went just the way he said it would.
But let's talk about 2 things, though. So say they stay at 6. So you're telling me that in your heart of hearts, which I fucking hate that phrase, that he believed that he wanted DeVonta Smith over Jaelan Waddle.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
I think he would have taken DeVonta Smith even at number 6.
And now when you trade out of 6, because Waddle goes 6, if you trade out of 6, you're sitting at 12. I, along with a shit ton of other people, thought Detroit goes DeVonta Smith at 7. What if that happened? Then where does he go?
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
That's a scary thought.
I'm wondering if they looked to make the trade that the Giants ultimately made. Who knows if the Giants would have already beat them to the punch there. But I think they were. If you remember, when in our pre-draft episode, we were talking about Howie Roseman leaking it out there that he was looking to trade up, that he was looking to trade down. I think a lot of that was dependent upon DeVonta Smith being available.
If that's who he wanted the whole time, the guy's a fucking genius this year. I will say that. But he's also a lucky motherfucker, because if DeVonta Smith goes 7, then his whole fucking idea is fucked.
Yeah,
because then number 8 and number 9 was Horn and Surtain.
Mm-hmm. In my mock draft, I had DeVonta Smith going to Detroit. So
yeah, we both did. Yeah,
luck definitely played a part in it. I do think that DeVonta was one of the top guys on their board, but that would have pushed down some other guys. I wonder where Penei Sewell would have went in that case. I wonder if they would have looked at Slater.
I think Philly at that point. I think they're trading down. Or say if Dallas still takes Micah Parsons at 10, I almost think that they take your boy Phillips. I really do. I think at that point, you came out with that rumor, and I researched it, and it was legit that they loved Jaelan Phillips. And that could have been your guy at 12, and that would have been a fucking mess.
Hey, it might have been Quiddy Pay for all I know.
Oh, boy.
And then Scotty is eating his words a little bit.
Oh boy, well, both of us, to be honest. But yeah, that did not happen. But I'll tell you what, this first round was so fun. We had on a bunch of picks together, to be honest. We hit Lawrence and Wilson, but we all had Jamar Chase going 5. Myself and yourself had Pitts going 4 to Atlanta. And then later on in the draft, like you said, you hit Rousseau perfectly. I hit your boy Caleb Farley to Tennessee perfectly.
Beautiful.
Rashad Bateman of the Ravens perfectly, and Najee Harris to the Steelers perfectly. So it was fun, man. It really was. And next episode, we're going to get Dr. Tomas back on with us, Rocco B and Scotty G, to talk about our mock drafts and how they stacked up with the prognosticators past number 17, past the second half of the draft.
Yeah.
And people will be shocked on how we did against the prognosticators in the second half of the draft, where I think it really counts.
Well, just wait for that, yeah, because I will say right at the forefront that hitting on those late first round picks, it's far more impressive than hitting on those early ones. Those early ones are debated ad nauseum, so getting some of those late guys correct, very impressive.
I would agree, and thank you very much. And now here's the thing. Oh boy. I wanted to save up some energy for this, and I think I got enough left. I want you to go into your thoughts real quick, and then I'm going to actually take the reins from there because I have so much shit to talk about these Las Vegas Raiders. Tell me what you thought about the pick at 17.
Should I just put it in terms of Mike Mayock-isms? Do you remember back in the day when Mike Mayock basically had his own dictionary of basically adjectives that he would refer to his prospects as?
Yes, and it used to be cute, it used to be funny, and now I think he's doing it for real, and he's fucking with an NFL franchise.
Well, let's just say that he definitely drafted a road grader at number at number 17 in Alex Leatherwood. He's certainly a high motor guy, but the real question is he a heavy-legged waist bender? That's what I want to know from you.
I think he's all those things. And then he's another thing. He's a fucking University of Alabama offensive lineman. And there's one more word that can describe how he's going to pan out for the Raiders is a fucking bust. But Mike Mayock is a guy that I had put a shit ton of stock into when he became the GM for the Raiders because I really did love his combine stuff. Oh, man, it has not translated unless John Gruden is running the show completely and Mayock has no say. But
I wonder.
What did you think about the pick? I mean, what did you think?
I didn't like it. That's simple. I did not like it. I thought they could have went in a couple other directions, especially when Mike Mayock is saying towards the end of the season last year that they didn't have a single player on the defensive side of the ball that they felt that other teams needed the game plan for. Do you know how difficult that makes, or how easy that makes the job of the opposing offense to go into a weekly matchup and say, we don't have to change anything. There's no game changer. There's no guy that can blow up a game plan here. So let's just run our offense.
Well, when you trade Khalil Mack to start your tenure there, as John Gruden did, and then you go into some of the picks they made on defense and how busty these guys are, and we're not talking about the best kind of busty. I'm telling you what, it's a shock to me that they're not in the basement of the AFC West every year. Maybe Derek Carr deserves more credit, who knows, but since Mike Mayock got there in 2019, and John Gruden is the director of football operations since he's been there, I just want to go into their drafts real quick. And then I want to go into Alex Leatherwood, who they decided to take Alex Leatherwood over, and then the fact that he's a University of Alabama Crimson Tide offensive lineman. I'm going to go through the history of the Saban-era Alabama offensive lineman busts. There's 13 of them. 13.
I'm excited to hear that.
Okay.
But back to Leatherwood, he's more than likely going to play guard, in my opinion. I think he slots better as a guard. Drafting a guard 17, it's a bad look. It's a rough look. I know the Jets traded up for Elijah Vera Tucker, who's a guard, but Elijah Vera Tucker is a considerably better prospect.
Yeah, Leatherwood played tackle basically the whole time in Alabama, Vera Tucker played both. So, it's not like you're converting a guy. Vera Tucker knows how to play both. You're going to convert Leatherwood to guard. From what I saw of him at Alabama, whether he won an Outland Trophy or not, the guy couldn't move. So how are you going to put him on the outside? He couldn't move. He had long-ass arms, and he's a strong dude, just like a lot of dudes from Alabama were. They can't move. It's like they get these guys that are like made of concrete, 350 pounds of concrete, and of course they're going to block guys from Ole Miss. Of course they're going to block guys from Mississippi State. Get him in the fucking NFL. Let's see what happens. I think he does project better as a guard, but at the same time, he's going to be a bust regardless, and I'll tell you why. 2019, let's just go into the Raiders draft, shall we?
Yep.
I was trying to get down to who's making these picks. Is it Gruden? Is it Mayock? Is it both of them? I think it's got to be one or the other, honestly. If you remember, they took Clelin Ferrell, 4th overall.
Ew.
Okay. The guy's got 6.5 sacks in his career. 6.5. You know who they took him over? They said, no, we don't want Josh Allen, who went to a Pro Bowl for the Jaguars, who has 13 total sacks. We don't want Devin White, who just fucking won a Super Bowl, and teams have to, like you said, offensive teams have to game plan for on defense. He has 11.5 sacks. They didn't want Ed Oliver, who was one of the best players in that draft, who was on the all-rookie team and has 8 total sacks. And we forget about a guy who went late first round, Montez Sweat, who has the most sacks. He has 16 of all these guys. But yet they took Clelin Ferrell, number 4. That's going to still fucking haunt their dreams forever.
I was just as confused as anyone at that time when they drafted him. What a reach.
What a reach, right? Because they're obsessed with Alabama guys, and they're obsessed with Clemson guys. Clelin Ferrell's a Clemson guy. In the second round, they take Trayvon Mullen, another Clemson guy. Instead of, rolling into the season with Zay Jones and Tyrell Williams. No, we don't want A.J. Brown. We don't want DK Metcalf. Let's take the corner Trayvon Mullen, who got toasted at Clemson in the second round. Nice draft. To me, that reeks of John Gruden. John Gruden took, if you remember, and I want to say rest in peace, this man has passed away, but in 2007, he took defensive end from Clemson, Gaines Adams, 4th overall, the same spot they took Clelin Ferrell 4th overall from the same fucking school.
I forgot about Gaines Adams,
right?
Man.
What a fucking bust. Because they took him instead of Adrian fucking Peterson. And if you wanted to stay on defense, you missed out on Patrick Willis and Darrelle Revis. Tell me how this isn't a John Gruden draft so far. Go ahead.
That was terrible. That should have been a franchise-changing draft. That draft should have set them up for years to go with not only depth, but impact players everywhere across the entire roster. They're actually the example I use to Scotty, because Scotty's a big trade back, acquire more future assets type of guy when he's talking about the Jets. I always warned him about that, because you look at a team like the Raiders and they have that draft set up. Would they rather have that one guy at the top, or would they rather be littered with these average guys? It really depends on who's drafting for you.
Exactly.
Is it Mayock? Is it Gruden?
Yes.
Whoever it is needs to reevaluate their process, because clearly it's broken.
Yes. If they put, say, Tom Coughlin, if they put Bill Parcells with 3 fucking first-round picks,
Howie Roseman,
your team will be changed in a heartbeat. Well, you put John Gruden in charge of your fucking draft. Not good. Because then, and I'm giving them a pass on Josh Jacobs, who was taken 24th in that draft. And I'm giving them a pass on taking Jonathan Abram late in the first round. I think he's a good player.
Let me ask you, would they rather have Ferrell and Jacobs or a guy like Devin White?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But just think, they could have had both. They could have had White and Jacobs, so that's the problem. They do have the stock to do it. And then in the second round, you could have gotten a all-pro talent like A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf instead. Now you get to the next draft, 2020. Talk about the Raiders, talk about the speed. Why'd they take Ruggs instead of Judy, Lamb, Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, or T. Higgins? Tell me why. Tell me that one guy out of those 6 is a bust, and that's the fucking guy they take. There's something
he ran
wrong
fast.
with it. Exactly. And it's like, can they fucking learn at some point? 19th, they take Damon Arnett instead of Patrick Queen, Antoine Winfield, who just won a Super Bowl, and Trayvon Diggs from the Cowboys, who looks amazing. They took Damon Arnett instead.
Another giant reach there. Nobody had him going that high.
Unbelievable what these guys are doing. And then, here's the best part. Kid I watched a lot. I watched him live at UK, University of Kentucky. Lynn Bowden could do it all. He was like the Randall Cobb plus with Kentucky. He's
already gone.
They reached for this fucking guy in the third round. Forget about already gone. They traded the guy before the season started. They never even saw him in a Raiders uniform. And they drafted him in the third round. They traded him for a fourth rounder. How does that work? How does that work? Okay, so these guys are so fucking awful that I can't let them get away with it, especially when this year they got the chance to turn it around. They got the 17th pick. They got a couple studs on the board. They take Leatherwood instead of a guy that's proven like Christian Darrisaw or a Tevin Jenkins who's a mauler or Liam Eichenberg, a guy from Notre Dame. Notre Dame tackles always work in the NFL. How do you take this guy, Leatherwood, from Alabama, which I will tell you in a second, on all of these guys that don't work? It's amazing.
Tevin Jenkins was another one, by the way, that I could not believe fell out of the first round.
Yes.
Agreed completely. We're going to look back probably in 2 years or so and say, oh, man, they took Leatherwood over Tevin Jenkins, over any other offensive lineman that went in the second round. I felt this was a deep offensive lineman draft. And for them to take Leatherwood in that situation, preposterous.
Unbelievable, and it's even more preposterous after you hear this. Now, I got 8 guys who I really want to go into deeply, and these other 5 guys I'll mention right now were lower round picks, but they were also studs at Alabama. So it gives you a total of 13 overall busts on the offensive line that were drafted since 2009. 13 over the past 12 years. Antoine Caldwell, Mike Johnson, Ari Kwanjo, Austin Shepard, Ross Pierschbacher are a couple of the guys that were drafted in the later rounds that were nasty at Alabama that did not stay in the league, busted out within a couple years. Here's the big names, the 8 big names. 2009, Cincinnati Bengals draft Andre Smith, 6th overall. He was the Outland Trophy winner and an All-American. He's been on 6 different moves. He's 4 different teams. He's been with the Bengals 3 separate times.
But let's talk about that shirtless 40. You want to talk about titillating top 5.
So that's where he goes 6 overall. Why? Because an offensive tackle can run fast. It's unbelievable. He's had injuries on top of injuries. Like I said, he's moved teams 6 times, and he can't stay anywhere even though he gets overpaid, and he's always overmatched on the football field because he can't move. Number 2, 2011, Seattle Seahawks draft James Carpenter, 25th overall. He's an all SEC player. He's been on his 4th team so far. He's got injuries on top of injuries. He won the Super Bowl with Seattle, but he wasn't the starter. He was just on the Jets a couple years ago. Scotty knows all about him. He's a bust, especially first round. 2013, the Tennessee Titans select 10th overall Chance Warmack, an All-American guard who you thought was going to maul everybody like he did in college. Well, he's been on 3 different teams, and he's out of the league right now.
Super Bowl winner, but was not good at all.
Yes. Then, next pick in that same draft, 2013, the San Diego Chargers select the tackle, 11th overall, DJ Fluker, another All-American from Alabama. He's been on 5 different teams and has never lived up to being a first-round tackle. He's even been moved inside to guard as well. Number 5, you remember this guy who I couldn't believe he got drafted in the 4th round, but there's a reason. The St. Louis Rams take in the 4th round Barrett Jones, an Outland Trophy winner, All-American center, 4 teams he's been on. He didn't start 1 fucking game. He was out of the league in 3 years. But when you saw him at Alabama, holy shit, he blocked everybody, and he was like the smartest guy in the room and blah, blah, blah. Out of the league in 3 years. 2014, Buffalo Bills in the 2nd round, Cyrus Kwanjo, another big fucking Alex Leatherwood-like tackle. Yep. All-American. He had 8 starts, and he was out of the league in 3 years. 2017, Jacksonville Jaguars 2nd round, Cam Robinson, who was an Outland Trophy winner and an All-American. He has a bunch of injuries. He's a penalty machine, but he's still with the Jaguars on his 5th-year option. We'll see what happens, but to me, he's been way overrated. The top 5 league leaders in offensive penalties when he plays. 2019, the Cincinnati Bengals took 11th overall Jonah Williams, an All-American tackle from Alabama who was a can't-miss prospect, apparently. This motherfucker hasn't seen the field in 2 years. Okay? He can't stay healthy. Just like all of these 13 guys I've talked about.
He is the reason that the Bengals were being mentioned why they need an offensive lineman. You don't draft a guy that early and then expect 2 years later that you're in serious dire need of another offensive lineman. That was terrible.
So to me, if you look at all of these guys in the Saban era since 2008 that have been drafted in the NFL draft, 13 have busted. There's only 2 guys that have made it. One guy who made it, 2016, the Indianapolis Colts selected 18th overall center Ryan Kelly, the Remington Trophy winner for the best center in the game, All-American. He is the second highest paid center in the NFL right now. He is nasty. 2018, very deep in the draft, the 6th round, the Baltimore Ravens selected Bradley Bozeman, the center from Alabama, who wasn't even an All-American, wasn't even an All-SEC guy. He's been the 2-year starter for the Baltimore Ravens at center. Those are the only 2 fucking guys that have made it in the past 12 years of the 15 Saban-era Alabama offensive linemen who've been drafted. You tell me with Alex Leatherwood with double knee braces, who looks similar to a lot of these fucking guys on the list, you tell me how he wouldn't be a bust.
That's a great call. I did not do enough research to realize all these busts that came out of Alabama. I hate being a helmet scout, but you have to wonder whether being surrounded by great offensive linemen, or not even great, good, adequate offensive linemen consistently every single year boosts your soul performance and boosts you as a prospect.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder.
With this research, Dr. Tomas, I don't fuck around. 2013, they had 3 guys, Barrett Jones, DJ Fluker, Chance Warmack, on the same fucking line, All-Americans. They all didn't work. Why? Because they weren't on the same team together in the NFL, number 1. Number 2, the NFL competition is not Ole Miss. The NFL competition is not Mississippi State. the NFL competition is not Kentucky. Okay.
Here's the thing, though, Rocco. You're going against the SEC, where you have guys that are fierce pass rushers and some of the fastest defensive players. How are they getting away with these heavy-footed offensive linemen?
Thank you, Mike. In the NFL, there's 4 of those guys on the line, not just 1. You know what I'm saying? They don't realize that, yes, you may have a fucking Chase Young at Ohio State and maybe a pretty good end on the other side and then nice tackles in the middle. The NFL has NFL talent at every position. There's no drop-off. There's a supreme drop-off from a guy like Chase Young to the next end at Ohio State. There's not much drop-off in the NFL when you go to the other side. And they got 4 guys on the line this time. Or the linebackers are just as good, like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah or fucking, Nick Bolton or Zaven Collins. There's 3 of those guys in the NFL, not just 1. They lack the ability to be on an island. That's the thing. Once they're on an island and it's all on, the spotlight's on them, and they don't have the rest of the Alabama offensive line and the rest of the shit SEC to play and that cupcake schedule they play for the out-of-conference schedule, it's a little different.
So you want to know my takeaway from this?
Absolutely.
I think the biggest one would be if you want to take an all-around offensive lineman that can be a road grader against the run and can also pass block, look towards the Big Ten. And then if you want a guy that is light on his feet and can keep your quarterback clean when he drops back, look maybe towards the Big 12, where they're passing every damn down.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk about a guy, that's what I worried about with Penei. Is the problem is it's not only what you do on offense, but it's what is the defensive talent like or the defensive scheme like that you're playing against. Penei Sewell was a shotgun run and shoot type of offensive lineman playing against the Pac-12 defenses, which are generally terrible.
Yep.
So how do you prove to me that Penei Sewell can be a pass protector on a drop back under center offense with a guy dropping back with a 3, 5, 7, even 9-step drop when you've never done that at Oregon? That's what I worry about.
He also has short arms, which will hurt him when he's doing his drop sets.
Yeah, I'm worried about shit like that. They said that about Slater too. I've watched tape on Slater. Slater, to me, is a better overall player than Sewell is. I think Sewell is way better at the run, and I'd say Slater is slightly better at the pass. But if you want Burrow protected Why would you go with a guy that has never dropped in a 7-step fucking drop ever? Why?
Yeah. Well, I wish you would have shared these Alabama offensive lineman statistics with me before the draft. I could have maybe found a way to get them to Howie Roseman so he could have taken Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah or even Azeez Ojulari with that pick instead of Landon Dickerson.
Yes.
Little too late, Rocco.
Too little too late.
Thanks for the help.
Sorry, pal. I just will tell you that Dickerson will be out of the league in a couple years. And because he's already now, like I said, has the maroon helmet with the white numbers on it, not the white A. And honestly, he's already had the injuries. That's not good.
I'll give you props here because I'm the furthest thing away from a helmet scout. So I don't care where a guy went to school. If he's a player, take him. You have me terrified right now of that draft pick. Luckily, it was a second rounder because I forgot to mention this earlier. If the Eagles traded back, one of the guys they were targeting with that trade back pick, Landon Dickerson, they would have taken him in the first round.
Oh, no. Now, I will say, and you're completely right about what you just said about the Big Ten. I remember when the Cowboys took Travis Frederick in the first round. Travis Frederick was generally looked at as a second or third round talent because he played center at Wisconsin. Nobody had this motherfucker in the first round.
Yep.
Nobody.
And his film, his college film looked like he had 2 cinder blocks for cleats, meaning that he had the heaviest feet in the world.
Yes.
Somehow overcame that in the pros and was an all-pro center.
Yeah. This kid, if he did not get sick with Guillain-Barré syndrome, he would have been a Hall of Famer. But he's Wisconsin. Wisconsin fucking linemen work out. If he played for Alabama, he wouldn't have. And to me, I understand helmet scouting. I get it. I still have to see an Ohio State quarterback. I still have to see an Alabama quarterback. I know for sure that if you take an offensive tackle that won the Outland Trophy and was an All-American and has 2 knee braces on in Alabama, they will not work. I will guarantee you. So Landon Dickerson played center. I don't know if we got to look up whether he won the Remington Trophy, but he has already got knee problems. So you're in trouble.
Yeah, he has knee problems times 2 and ankle problems times 2.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah. Reach City. But Dr. Tomas, this was so fun, man. I love talking to you about the NFL and about even though you're a fucking Eagles fan. I think we did.
I tell it like it is, Rocco. I tell it like it is, though.
You're
I don't
right.
always kiss their ass just because I'm an Eagles fan.
You're right. I know a bunch of Eagles fans that will not ever say anything bad about their team. But, I will say that looking over this first round, my feelings about the Raiders. My feelings about the Dolphins. And I think you also know my feelings about how I didn't think that the Giants did well either. What do you think on who did best in the first round and who is your worst?
Well, when I'm looking at the first round, I look at talent. There's one team that stands out above everyone else, and it's kind of funny based on where they were picking. But I loved the draft of the Baltimore Ravens, coming away with Rashad Bateman, who I think is going to help their passing game so much. And then on the other side of the ball, grabbing at number 31, Odafe, not Jason, away.
All right. So you're saying that they were coming away with a nice draft is what you're saying.
They definitely came away with a nice one.
Yes, I love Bateman. I think Scotty does not think Lamar Jackson can get him the ball. But I will say that was probably their best option at receiver there, sans a Terrace Marshall. I think they needed a taller guy. That's why Elijah Moore didn't fit. Rondale Moore didn't fit. I love the pick with Bateman and with Odafe away. Perfect fit for a developmental stand-up pass rusher, and that's what Harbaugh loves. So
when you go beyond the first round for them too, they took another guy that I love in the third round, the guard Ben Cleveland.
Oh, Ben Cleveland, yeah, absolutely.
The guy looks like a monster.
And you know what my favorite pick of Baltimore is, and because I'm an old school guy, and if you think back to when they took LaRon McClain and he was nasty for them for a long time, and the guys that they can use check they had at one point. They took Ben Mason in the fucking fourth round. What a fucking pick. What a pick. He's a fullback, tight end, H-back, whatever. He will
Defensive
be there.
tackle.
He'll
play anything
what
you
a
need.
pick. What a pick for them. And it doesn't shock me that Baltimore is the guy that takes him.
Yeah, another guy that people were talking about as a potential first-round pick entering the season did terrible, Sean Wade. So we'll see. He's a corner prospect. We'll see how he does. Was a bit rough at Ohio State, but he was a guy that was getting talked about as a first-rounder, so that's great value.
Yeah, and I really love what Baltimore did. I really do. I think, like we talked about earlier, I think Jacksonville could have done better with 25. I like the fact that they're going to make Lawrence comfortable, but at the same time, they did not need running back. I know we talk shit about him. I know we don't like him per se, but I really think if you want to talk about the perfect spot for this guy, I think Mac Jones landed perfectly.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Belichick still has that magic left in him, because that's going to be key for their success moving forward. I'm interested to see how Mac Jones fits in there, because I'm not a Mac Jones fan or a believer. So
yes, well,
this is going to be interesting to see that goofy ass walk he had from the green room. Come on now, that's your guy.
Well, listen.
Then he's on. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but he's on ESPN talking about how he was a male model, and that makes him more as a child, and that makes him more confident and more comfortable.
Yeah, no, good thing we didn't hear that. Good thing we didn't hear that. But I'm telling you, as long as
he was one of those like J.C. Penei models that's in like the magazines and shit. Terrible.
Boy. Well, what was he, plus size kid stuff? So here's the thing. I think honestly, he landed, as long as McDaniels is there, he landed it in a perfect spot. But your boy Quiddy Pay to the Colts, perfect fit. And honestly, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I really think Dallas with Parsons really did it. They did a great job. They did a great job.
I'll give it to you there. But I want to tell you my team that I thought had another killer draft. And this is interesting with me just naming Baltimore, because their division rival, the Cleveland Browns, I thought did fantastic.
Killed it.
They landed. That defense is looking fierce with them landing Newsome. And then in the second round, getting a guy that I thought would have been a perfect first-round pick for them in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Are you kidding me?
They have the best team on paper. I'm going to come out and say it. I brought some crazy shit up with Scotty as far as Aaron Rodgers goes. Could you imagine if fucking Cleveland could make a move for Aaron Rodgers?
Man.
Oh, repeat written all over it if they can get him for 2 years. Their team is the best on paper. Absolutely. Their weakness is Baker Mayfield.
And slam dunk draft picks. Like, great job by them. As soon as they traded up for in the second round, I was like, oh, they're going with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and that's a perfect fit. Yep. And sure enough, that's who they drafted. And I was like, wow. So to pair him with Newsome, who I think is going to be a shutdown corner, great pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what Cleveland did. And as long as Mayfield can get his head out of his ass, Cleveland is going to be for real for a couple years at least. So
I have one final team for you here before we wrap this up. And this is a team that it's kind of gotten a little contentious with what side you're on of this debate. But I really liked the draft of the Chicago Bears. I thought they took a risk trading up. But I think Justin Fields is going to be the steal of the draft as far as quarterback is concerned. And I think he's the one that changes the narrative about Ohio State quarterbacks.
Like I told you, I do really, really, really like Fields. I like Fields more than I've ever liked an Ohio State quarterback. Do I have to see it from my own two eyes? Yes. But Chicago worries me actually more than Fields does in this case. I'm worried about what he's going to be around. I'm worried about what he's going to be subjected to as far as moves go, as far as coaching moves go, as far as does Aaron Rodgers stay in the division? Does he not? Does Minnesota take that leap that they should? I think Detroit will be better than people think. It's a tough division, and you're also going to have to contend with the fans. The fans have been tired of the way that this team has played for years now. And
that would be the pick that gets me back if I'm a Bears fan. If I'm disgruntled thinking like, oh, here's their social media manager putting up a post that Andy Dalton's their QB1 and there's nothing to look forward to. There's nothing to be excited about. They had that brief little excitement where they thought they might be getting like a Russ earlier in the offseason. And then that all got deflated when they got Andy Dalton.
Now
Now they have a guy that they can attach their hope to. And here's the thing. This is why I like their draft more than anything, though. If they stayed put where they were and didn't get aggressive and move up for Fields, nobody would have batted an eye if they drafted Tevin Jenkins in the first round where they were. And to get him in the second, fantastic job. So now they have a guy to keep Justin Fields clean for years to come. And Tevin Jenkins on top of Fields, great job by them.
Absolutely.
Hey,
loved it.
They get a lot of BS, but hey, I like that draft.
Loved it. And Nagy and Pace didn't give a shit about the future because they know they got one more year left if they don't win. So, of course,
here's the way I look at it. They gave up that first round pick to the Giants next year, which is huge. That sucks, especially because it's those 2022 picks have been referred to as gold, just because of you're going to have a full evaluation process.
Yeah.
But really, they got 2 first-round picks this year because Tevin Jenkins is a guy that I really like. I think he easily could have been a first-round pick.
Absolutely. I had him going to the Raiders at 17, but the Raiders, of course, took our boy Leatherwood. So, yeah. I mean, I do like it. I'm just saying I have to see it from number 1 an Ohio State quarterback, and number 2, I have to see it from that Chicago front office that they will surround him with pieces. And that division's tough. So, but we will see. I did like it too. And really, the last thing, definitely before we wrap this up, let's just pray for Scotty and for Zach Wilson. When he came when he came out in that skinny suit, I said, man, this guy looks small. He looks really tiny. He looks like a little kid.
I agree with you. That struck me too, and that struck me through the whole process where I can't believe his listed size, because he just looks tiny. He kind of has like even a more frail Baker Mayfield build. He looks like when you see a photo of him, but then apparently he's bigger. I don't know.
He looks like Johnny Manziel. That's who he looks like. He's a little taller Johnny Manziel. I don't, frame wise, unless they protect his ass, which they did a great job, getting Vera Tucker on top of Becton last year. But at the same time, he looks tiny, man. And he's got to be able to take the punishment from Miami, Buffalo, and the Patriots. I don't know.
Here's the thing. The Jets' identity for the past decade has been no offensive line, terrible offensive line. We're in a new era. Joe Douglas has done a great job there. They have an offensive line.
They have offensive line, and they have pieces. Like Darnold didn't have either one of those. So they have an offensive line. They got to do some things on the right side, of course. But, the left side is completely set up for 10 years. And they brought in some pieces, man. They brought in Elijah Moore. Corey
I loved him
Davis,
as a first-round pick, and they get him. That guy can fly.
Fucking Keelan Cole. I mean, if Herndon gets his head out of his ass, they got a lot of pieces on that team, and still with Jamison Crowder. So they have pieces finally.
We got to stop this conversation, though, because it's going to go to Scotty's head. He's going to be thinking Jets are going to the AFC Championship. We're back. Scotty, calm down when you're listening to this. We're not saying that yet. You still have a lot to prove. But at the end of the day, it would be nice and refreshing for Scotty finally to have a quarterback. So despite his frail look, hopefully he does become more than adequate.
Yes, Joe Montana looked frail too. So let's just hope that this is his guy. I really believe Robert Saleh is going to be the coach of the future for them. And Joey D is fucking pulling some shit off. So let's just hope this is the case. You don't have to look like, Rocco B to be an NFL quarterback, but at the same time,
yeah, you could be a bad body quarterback. Bill Belichick loves them.
Apparently. So you don't have to be. It's just it just strikes me in the way that everyone's so speedy and powerful in this game. Can he handle it in that tough defensive division? So we will see. But Dr. Tomas, this was great. Episode 16 in the books. We talked about how we thought about our draft. We talked about how shitty the Raiders are doing. I really believe the Raiders are out of their tits. And Dr. Tomas could not be happier with the pick that the Philadelphia Eagles took at number 10 with DeVonta Smith, Heisman winner.
Ecstatic. Ecstatic is the word.
So, and of course, my boys took my boy Micah Parsons. Very excited. Did they bungle the third round? Yes, but we'll get into that in a later episode. But for now, we will see you in episode 17 with Scotty G back and with Dr. Tomas. And we'll go into the rest of the draft, rounds 2 through 7. And we will see you guys on the other side. But for Rocco B and for Dr. Tomas, we'll say see you later and sayonara.
See you next time.